Maura Gillespie is with us, Blue Stack Strategies founder and principal, and Matt Bennett, the co-founder of Third Way, back with us at the table here in Washington. It's great to see you both with us. Matt, you were with Bill Clinton for the 50th anniversary in Normandy. These are optics that are the most powerful an incumbent can use to deliver a message. And that message, as we just heard today, had a lot to do with Ukraine. It also had a lot to do with two people who were not mentioned, Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump. How did he do?
I thought he did pretty well. And this trip is designed to show a contrast between himself and Trump and to project to the world that we are not going to become an isolationist country. Isolationism failed us miserably in the 1940s, and I think he was very careful to be clear that we are not doing that again.
Yeah.
And then the callback to Trump is obvious. I mean, as you'll remember, Trump declined to go to the cemetery where fallen American soldiers were buried because he was worried about mussing up his hair. And then he said that the people buried there were suckers and losers. I mean, Joe Biden ends every single speech he ever gives with "God protect our troops." He is a deep believer in that. And he's the opposite of Trump in every respect when it comes to those kinds of things.
There were reports, at least, that he said that more of the contrast couldn't be greater here to see Joe Biden invoking Ronald Reagan as almost a weapon against Donald Trump. Frame the politics here for us.
Well, anytime a president is overseas, it's super important, really not even just president, but members of Congress as well. It's really important to keep politics at the water's edge. But I do think that he's being strategic in how he frames himself by evoking Ronald Reagan and hearkening back to his speech. And, again, pointing out this contrast between he and his opponent here in the United States. What's really important here is to remember what was done on D-Day, what that meant, and what, the greatest generation, why they're called that, because they gave their life, so that we could have ours. And that's something that can't be forgotten in this moment.
I'll tell you, that's the first time I've heard the phrase leaving politics at the water's edge today, Matt. He was surrounded by U.S. veterans, some of whom I presume don't share his politics. It was incredibly moving watching the President of the United States, the President of France, bestowing medals upon them, hugging them, talking individually, one by one. I stopped everything I was doing to watch that this morning. Should they have been behind him for a political speech?
Well, this wasn't a political speech. This was an official function of the president.
You're right.
I mean, he was
there.
He
invoked some pretty heavy politics.
Yeah, of course, but everything he does between now and November is political, and some of it, not all, is also official. But when you're there as the president, I mean, when I was there with President Clinton, he boarded the aircraft carrier, George Washington, sailed across the English Channel, flew off to Pointe du Hoc and gave the speech. That's a very much an official function of the president, and that's what President Biden was doing today.
Maura, did you have a problem with the staging and the use of the veterans? We're looking at them now on Bloomberg TV. It was incredibly touching, moving, watching them there today.
I agree with Matt. That's an official act by our president of the United States. He is yes, he's a Democrat, but he is our president of the whole country. And I think we've gotten so partisan in our politics, especially as of late, that we have forgotten the importance of what the United States' role is in the world and on the world stage. And that moment was to highlight and shine a light on those veterans. And I think that was a beautiful way of giving them tribute, a beautiful way of showing them how much we appreciate, value, and will remember what was done that day and what that meant to not only to the United States, but to the world order.
Well, I'm glad that you could both weigh in on that as we bring you images of that moving ceremony from earlier today here on Bloomberg Television. Last week, let's reassemble our political panel. Maura Gillespie from Blue Stack Strategies is with us, along with Matt Bennett from Third Way. Maura, we saw new numbers today from Siena College, Siena Survey Center, working with the New York Times, showing a 7% drop, down 3 points here, Donald Trump, since the verdict. His message has been one of a political prisoner. Does he continue that rhetoric here as he works his way to a sentencing, or is it time for a new message?
I mean, Donald Trump is prone to repeat the same message again and again and again, as we know. This is our third election with him as the candidate, so which is, again, kind of hard to grapple with, but that's where we're at. I don't think that he changes his message because he prefers to play the victim. It's really what he likes to do, and it's what he's comfortable doing. You saw it in his interview with Hannity, talking about being the victim and that this is a sham and they're going after him. But what I think that the poll may or may not show is that people are kind of getting sick of it, I would hope, because if you continue to say that he is being targeted, and then he has the opportunity to then target when he gets into the White House, this tit for tat isn't going to help us as a country on the issues that actually matter. It's not going to help people lower the grocery cost and buy a home. So I think people have got to be a little frustrated that the focus has been entirely on his court cases and not on the issues that matter and impact them the most.